Temples of Desire. The Khajuraho Group of Monuments is a group of Hindu and Jain temples of Madhya Pradesh in India, about 175 kilometers southeast of Jhansi. They are one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites in India. The temples are famous for their nagara-style architectural symbolism and their erotic sculptures. Most Khajuraho temples were built between 950 and 1050 AD by the Chandela dynasty. Historical records note that the Khajuraho temple site had 85 temples by the 12th century, spread over 20 square kilometers. Of these, only about 20 temples have survived, spread over 6 square kilometers. Of the various surviving temples, the Kandariya Mahadeva Temple is decorated with a profusion of sculptures with intricate details, symbolism, and expressiveness of ancient Indian art. The building activities started almost immediately after the rise of their power throughout their kingdom to be later known as Bundelkhand. Whole Khajuraho was enclosed by a wall with about 8 gates used for entry and exit. It is believed that each gate is flanked by 2 date palm trees. Due to these date trees, present Khajuraho get its name Khajura Vahika. In Hindi language, Khajura means date and Vahika means bearing. In history, Khajuraho is also described with the name of Jejabukti. After fall of Chandela dynasty, after AD 1150, Khajuraho temple suffered destruction and disfigurement by Muslim invaders in this area, which forced local people to leave Khajuraho. As Muslim invaders had a ruling policy of intolerance for worship places of other religions, so all the citizens of Khajuraho left the town with the hope that its solitude will not attract attention of Muslim invaders into the temple area, and in this way both temple and they themselves will remain unhurt. Khajuraho and Shubham were once the capital of the Chandela Rajputs. The Kandariya Mahadeva Temple, one of the best examples of temples preserved from the medieval period in India, is the largest of the western group of temples in the Khajuraho complex, which was built by the Chandela rulers. Shiva is the chief deity in the temple, deified in the Sanctum Sanctorium. The temple is said to have been built by the Chandela king Vidyadhara, who ruled from 1017 to 1029 AD. At various periods of the reign of this dynasty, many famous temples dedicated to Vishnu, Shiva, Surya, Shakti of the Hindu religion and also for the Tirthankaras of Jain religion were built. Vidyadhara, also known as Bida, in the recordings of the Muslim historian Ibn al-Athir, who is credited with the building the Kandariya Mahadeva Temple, was a powerful ruler who fought Mahmud of Ghazni in the first offensive launched by the latter in 1019 AD. This battle was not conclusive and Mahmud had to return to Ghazni. Mahmud again waged war against Vidyadhara in 1022 AD. He attacked the fort of Kalinjar. The siege of the fort was unsuccessful. It was lifted and Mahmud and Vidyadhara called a truce and parted by exchanging gifts. Vidyadhara celebrated his success over Mahmud and other rulers by building the Kandariya Mahadeva Temple dedicated to his family deity Shiva. Epigraphic inscriptions on a pilaster on the mandapa in the temple mentions the name of the builder of the temple as Virimda, which is interpreted as a pseudonym of Vidyadhara.
Da da digday 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 da da digday da.
The legend goes that on a full moon night in Kashi, many centuries ago, Hemvati, the extraordinarily beautiful daughter of the royal priest, decides to bathe in a pond full of lotuses. Her ravishing beauty so much captured the fancy of the moon god that he could not help descending to earth to meet her. They fall in love and do what all lovers do. She conceived a child out of this relationship. Since it had happened out of wedlock, Hemvati was worried and asked the moon god about her fate once he departed from the earth. The moon god prophesied that their son would be the first king of Khajuraho. The moon tells her to go far away from Kashi to the forests of Khajuraho and bring up their son there. Hemvati then left her home to give birth to her son in a tiny village. When he grows up, the moon god told her he should perform a sacrificial ritual that included among its rites the depiction of erotic figures. He should also build 85 temples at the forest of Khajur, which subsequently came to be known as Khajuraho, all carved with erotic figures. This would free his mother, said the moon god, from the blemish of extramarital love. Delighted by his feats, the child, Chandravarman, was as lustrous as his father, brave and strong. By the time he was 16 years old, he could kill tigers or lions with his bare hands. The son named Chandravarman grows up to be a valiant young man and an illustrious king. Hemvati invoked the moon god, who installed him as king at Khajuraho. Chandravarman achieved a series of brilliant victories and built a mighty fortress at Kalinja. At his mother's request, he began the building of 85 glorious temples with lakes and gardens at Khajuraho, which expuned her of her guilt. He goes on to establish the Chandela dynasty, sets up the city of Kalinjar, and lays the foundation of Khajuraho, a legacy that his descendants carry forward for generations until the fall of the dynasty 150 years later. With time and with the fall of the empire, the temples get buried under thick forests and remain hidden from the world for almost 500 years until a British engineer accidentally discovers them. Most temples were built during the reigns of the Hindu kings Yashovarman and Danga. Yashovarman's legacy is best exhibited by the Lakshmana temple. Vishwanatha temple best highlights King Danga's reign. The temple site is within Vindhya mountain range in central India. An ancient local legend held that Hindu deity Shiva and other gods enjoyed visiting the dramatic hill formation in Kalinjar area. The center of this region is Khajuraho, set midst local hills and rivers. The temple complex reflects the ancient Hindu tradition of building temples where gods love to play. The artwork of symbolically highlight the four goals of life considered necessary and proper in Hinduism: dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. Bizarrely, there is no reason why these ornate temples were built at Khajuraho, since there is no clear record of whether there was even a kingdom in this location. The survival of these graphic motifs can likely be attributed to their isolation for hundreds of years in the region's one thick forest, only rediscovered by Englishman Captain T.S. Burt in 1838. In fact, Burt himself had to be persuaded by his Indian attendants to make the journey. He didn't believe anything of interest would be found at the remote spot. The erotic art at Khajuraho is considered to represent the pinnacle of love and passion. However, during the period between 900 and 1300 AD, most Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist temples across the western and southern India featured some form of erotic art. At these other temples, the sculptures were carved at the plinth level, below the eye level, and rarely got noticed. It is only at the Khajuraho that these sculptures were so prominently displayed on the main wall of the temples.
திட்டக்கத கதைகினதா திட்டக்கத கதைகினதா ததிந்ததிந்தா திட்டக்கத கதைகினதா திட்டக்கத கதைகினதா திட்டக்கத கதைகினதா
தாதா திகிடதை 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 தாதா திகிடதை தா
விடுதா விடுதா விடுதா